Wanted to share an update from my good friend David Smith. David's property is in the very northwestern corner of Alabama. If you're not familiar, that's in the mountains. David's property has 600 or 800 feet difference in elevation change from the bottom to the top. David's got a lot of great information to share, and I hope you enjoy.
Hey Grant, it's David at the mountain in North Alabama. We showed everybody this field last time, and as you can see, it has really come on strong. The sunflowers, all of them, almost all of them are out, as you can see, and we've still got some that are just starting to put a seed head on. So when you look at this field, the first thing that comes to my mind is that we've got more food here than we got critters. And you've always told me that that is the key to any successful management program, is to make sure that you've got more food than you got critters. So when you look at this field and the amount of tonnage that it puts out, it's really amazing. And the blend, I'm looking, as I look down through here, I'm looking at sun hemp. We've got some sunflower, of course, then we've got some sun hemp over here. We've got the cowpeas coming up. We've got the soybean coming up. When you look further down, you can see the alfalfa, and I mean, it's just amazing is what this blend will do. And as y'all well know, Grant works with Green Cover Seed to be able to produce this type thing. And one of the things that Grant told me about this system probably 7-8 years ago, and told me he was moving to this, and I told him, well, we're still corn and beans, and that's what we want to do. So, but I'm glad he convinced me, because after looking at this, it's just an amazing transformation. And when he finally convinced me about it, I'll tell you a story. I told him that, Grant, we've been planting corn and beans for 10 or 15 years, and you're trying to tell me we're not going to plant a corn plant this year for deer? And what he told me stuck with me to this day, and that was, David, I've never seen one ear of corn grow 1 inch of antler. And when he said that and put that particular plant in that regard, it really made a lot of sense to me. Now, corn is carbohydrates, it does attract them, but when you're trying to grow antlers, it really doesn't do a lot. So, but when you look at this, you can see that, you can barely see the redneck blind back there, and this has gotten much taller. I think, Grant, when you were here last, it was down to your, I think, mid-thigh. You're taller than I am, but it was nowhere near this big. It looks really good. And another point I wanted to make is that, as you can see, when you look across the field, you can see all the sunflowers. And for some reason, and this is a benefit of the blend, I believe, that this field with so many sunflowers in it, when you go to another field, it doesn't have this many sunflowers. When you go to the fields on top of the mountain that we have on top, it's primarily grain sorghum. So there's not much sunflower up there. So the benefit of doing a blend is that if things don't work on a certain field, other things in the blend will work. And I think that's one of the things that Grant wants to get across to everybody, is that even though you have a failure in one thing, the whole field is not going to fail. And we've had that doing a corn and bean rotation. We've had that before. So it looks good. I love it. I wish I'd have done it 8 years ago when you first told me about it, but we're well on our way now to getting our herd to reach their full potential.
The bottom fields at David's place had pretty good soil. I mean, it's North Alabama, it's not Iowa, but I'm sure over time and erosion from way back when, a lot of that soil from the ridge top moved down to the bottom. So it's a little deeper, holds moisture a little bit better. But David also utilizes that ridge top. It's about the same amount of acreage, and he certainly hunts both part of his property.
We're actually in one of the fields on top, and as we look across there, you can see it's different than what the ones in the bottom are, or how they look. And I think the reason is we actually planted this field 2 weeks later than we planted the fields in the bottom. So they're much further on, but this one is still has gotten a lot taller since you were here. So as we walk down through here, you can see that it's predominantly buckwheat, but that's the way the fields were in the bottom. They were predominantly buckwheat. But when you look through here, you can see that we still have the sunflower, and it's coming up. It's not as far as long as what's in the bottom, but it's still coming up. And we've got a lot of milo in this field, or grain sorghum, which is, we don't have a lot of that in the bottom. But as you look across there, you can see that you can easily see the buckwheat. And this is the way the fields in the bottom were about 4 or 5 weeks ago. So I still think we're going to get a lot of production out of this. And as you look at the bottom, you can see our mat, how it's laid down. And when you pull that back, there's moisture under there. So again, I can't be more happy with it than I am now. This field does not look like the one in the bottom. And that's no problem, because it was planted 2, maybe 3 weeks later than that one. But as I walk through here, I can see all the elements of the seed that I was worried before that it wouldn't be here. So it looks good. I love it. And I got more food than I got critters. And that's the key.
There's no doubt David's deer are having ample quality forage to eat, both in the bottom and top, and I'm sure deer are going up and down the mountain. And it's important to remember that deer are what's called concentrate selectors. They're very finicky eaters. You might think they've got that real narrow mouth or muzzle compared to a cow or an elk or a bison. And they have a much smaller rumen, much smaller stomach, so they have to be more efficient. With that smaller stomach and a much smaller bacteria content, they have to have higher quality food. It's kind of like a race car needs really high quality fuel, and we have all these different species growing together. Different plants have different nutrient concentrations, and this allows deer to be that concentrate selector and select exactly what they need that day or even that minute. Imagine eating venison from somewhere in the Midwest, and boy, they've planted coated seed that had insecticide and fungicide on it, and that transfers into the plant, and then they've made at least 2, maybe 3 spray passes over there, and deer are out there eating forage today right after they sprayed on it, and that's all going in their body, right? They're digesting that and metabolizing those combinations of chemicals. Now think about a deer at David's place. He has pretty good native vegetation. We've shared how he's managing his timber, and he's got food plots that haven't had a herbicide pass, and the seed are not treated, and unless it's an inoculant, no insecticide, fungicide. Venison from David's place is going to be extremely healthy, and that's just a byproduct of the release process. David's plots seem like they're just going to get better and better. This summer, he's had decent rain, and the deer are not going to consume all the forage he's produced. That's not wasted, that's a savings actually. So he's gonna plant green, deer will still be feeding there day after day after day, and the vegetation that is dying or laid down as that weed mat, well, it is a weed mat. It's gonna suppress other weeds from growing. It's gonna slowly decompose, feeding or providing fertilizer, feeding that fall crop through the fall growing season. There's a lot of cycles that are just building on each other to make David's soil, deer herd, and his hunting better as time goes on. I've learned through time that when you apply natural processes to your food plots or timber management, it's just really productive. And that's true for our lives. If we take time to enjoy creation, and even more importantly, focus on the Creator's will for our life, seek it daily, our lives go much better. Thanks for watching Growing Deer.